Hi, I'm T.
I'm Mel.
And we are here at a campsite, and we are, I thought it would be fun to answer some questions that you may or may not have asked, and honestly, nobody asked these questions, but I'm going to answer them anyway. So, it's just so that you can get to know us a little bit better. We are traveling with our 11-year-old. He is in the RV right now. I think he's on his tablet, and we're out here enjoying the nature at this is a county park in Sandusky, Ohio. It's an amazing park. It's really like there's a lot of space between these. This is the first campground we've stayed at that had this much space, but I'll just go ahead and get into the questions. Right now I have 5 questions, but I might come up with some more later, and if I do, I'll go ahead and include those in this video. But the first question is, what made you want to buy an RV? So I'm going to go ahead and start with this question. My husband can jump in as he wants to, but we have, for those of you who don't know, we have 5 children. 4 are adults. I can't even call them young adults anymore because the youngest of those is about to turn 26. So when our older kids were younger, our 2 sons, so we have 3 boys and 2 girls. The youngest is a boy, and we have, 2 of each of the older ones. But when our boys were in Cub Scouts, we camped out a lot. We were a really active family in that respect. I was a Cub Master, and we all camped at the camp out. So over time, though, my husband and I said, hey, if we do this for ourselves, outside of the Scouts, maybe we can, live a little bit larger than this. Maybe we don't have to be on the ground. And of course, because to me, before we started camping out with the Cub Scouts, I thought that sleeping in something like a Days Inn was really camping for me, because I do not stay in those kinds of hotels. But we, in all honesty, camping on the ground showed me that a Days Inn was like an upgrade. So we decided we would start to look at some RVs. So we went in and out of some different RV shops. We oohed and awed over like all the things that we saw. But what really was our preferred one at that time was a pop-up. So we started looking at pop-ups. I don't know, knowing what I know now, a pop-up was probably not going to be in the best interest of a family of 6 at that time. Not at all. A pop-up was the silliest thing, but at the time, that's what we thought.
We're going to have the tents.
We were going
to pop up.
That is true.
The kitchen.
That is true.
Area.
And for someone like me, who likes to stay in hotels, I like to have a lot of space. I don't know how we ever would have done that, but why did we not go along with that? We didn't go along with it because over time, I think we realized we would need a bigger camper. And then I kept chickening out. So we would go and look at RVs, then we would stop doing it for a couple of years. We could look again. And I would chicken out because I did not want to tow an RV. I will drive a vehicle, and I have done this. Our longest trip, we've taken some 30-day trips before, but the one with the lowest mileage was 9,200 miles. I drove every single one of those miles because it was like a high score thing for me. My husband would keep saying, I can drive if you want me to. I was like, no, I'm just going to keep driving. I wanted to see what my high score would be. But over time, as I was considering, as we were talking about getting an RV that was not a pop-up, I realized that I was not going to be comfortable towing that. Not at all. As a matter of fact, the first time that I ever got behind of the wheel of a vehicle that was towing something else was today. I'll insert a clip of that video. We were on the way to this campground here, and I asked my husband, we were near a parking lot. We were in a parking lot actually to turn around, and I said, hey, I want to get in the driver's seat so I can feel what it's like to tow this vehicle. And so I did that. It wasn't too bad, but I'm not sure that I'm ready to get on the road just yet. I feel like I'm one of those people who would be in and out of lanes, and I would be the one on the news. So I think we should wait on that for a second. But at some point, I will be able to help out with the driving. Husband, what made you want to get an RV? What do you think?
The pop-up or now? Anything,
really. Because we had 2 periods of wanting an RV. So the first period, like I said, the older kids, when they were younger, so that was about, 15 years ago. Those kids now are 25 to 29 years old. This was when they were much, much younger. So we have a second period, or we entered a second period of wanting an RV, and we did that in 2024, so last year. So which period do you want to talk about?
So the first period was camping less rustic, right? So, not having to necessarily sleep on the ground, having a, toilet, sink, stove with you, not having to cook over open fire. But then I think we really quickly realized it wasn't enough. It really wasn't going to work. And then the most recent period was hotels seemed like they started to be so much money where we would save a lot with the RV, but the RV would allow us to stay outdoors instead of being trapped in the hotel.
Yeah.
We could actually be out like this. But then the same thing, you may not want to be out, air conditioning, toilet, stove, refrigerator. And so
I need all the necessities. And I'll just say that when we travel and we stay in hotels, which we still do, sometimes when we travel, we tend to, I tend to gear towards the suite hotel. So we have anywhere from, anywhere from like 400 square feet to, I would say when we have stayed at the Ritz, we've gotten the presidential suite every time. And that was like, I feel like it was 800 or 900 square feet. So going from that to something like an RV, I think ours is somewhere around 200 square feet, if it's even that. For our first trip, I wondered if we would, if we would still be a loving family after that trip. We did still love each other, but also with the hotel rates, you did mention earlier that with COVID, the hotel rates went up, and they don't seem like they've come down. We traveled extensively. We did some travel in 2020, but I think it was probably more local hiking. But in 2021, 22, 23, 24, we hit the road and we were all over the place. And we stayed wherever I booked a room and, in a place that, was of some hiking interest to us. But I kind of went overboard, and maybe this is a little bit of what made him want to enter this RV, discussion again. So for those 30-day trips, I think the most that we spent on a particular trip was, I think it was $17,000 that year. That would have been 2023. And we stayed at some really nice places. Even in Aspen, we stayed at an amazing place. But I think after that, we started talking about, okay, let's open up this topic again about RVs. And let's see how it goes. Our son is now, we're giving him a different kind of life. We hike a lot. We travel a lot with him. But this whole outdoorsy thing, which we're an outdoorsy family, it seems like we're even more authentic being outdoorsy in that we're kind of sleeping in a tuna can outside versus hiking like we had been doing, and then going back to this luxury hotel, this Ritz-Carlton, or this, this hotel, right along the, where we had the whole wall of windows at the ski slopes in Aspen. And in places like that in Tahoe, we've just stayed in some amazing places. But the RV life is, I will not say that it's cheap, but I think it's cheaper than the way that I chose to travel over the years. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next question, because I could talk about that one and get myself in trouble a lot here. So let's see. Had you ever towed an RV before? So I'll let my husband answer. I'm going to answer first and he'll answer. I had never towed an RV before. And as I mentioned earlier, the first time I ever, that I towed one was today in that little clip that I showed you earlier. So had you towed anything before?
U-Haul trailers.
U-Haul trailers.
I think I towed a trailer with a, skid steer or something on it before.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing this size.
Yeah. All right. How do you like RV life so far?
I like it. I wish the RV was bigger, but I guess it's not a wish. We're trying it out, see if we like it. We figured, why spend money on a big RV? Once we saw the stats that most people only keep it for a year or two,
yeah,
and then they stop RVing, we figured, is it worth buying a big RV, and then maybe we would stop using it. So if we like the small one in a few years or whatever.
Yeah, that is true. So our RV, we purchased it through someone on Facebook Marketplace. There was a gentleman and his wife, and they had 3 small children. And he said that in the 3 years that they owned this RV, they took it out a handful of times. And now that their kids, so when we bought it back in the fall from them, their kids had started doing a lot of activities. They were different sporting events or sporting activities. And he said they just didn't have time to use the RV anymore. But they didn't take it out that much in the 3 years that they owned it. So we are, we're trying to make sure that we're going to get a lot of use out of it because this it wasn't free, it wasn't cheap. We have to store it because we can't store it at home. So that's an additional fee right there. And we decided to be really intentional in making sure that we're getting out with this RV. So we had a really slow start. We bought it in November, and we live in the Midwest, and it gets, our winters are milder, but they're still kind of cold. And some of the parks turn off the water after, October 1st, November 1st. So you can't even get a place. And because I'm not staying in a place that's primitive, we just we put the brakes on going anywhere. Last fall, we actually didn't get out until April of this year for our first trip. So we owned this RV for quite a few months before we even took it out for the first time. Let's see. I like RV life because of opportunities like this where we get to sit outside and just enjoy nature. In the hotels, let's see, sometimes, especially when we're just staying in a hotel shortly just to go from one town to the next, we would run into situations where there were maybe kids running up and down the hall. Sometimes, actually a few times, the entire soccer teams running up and down the hallway, just making noise all night long. So we just, this right here though, it's peaceful. I like being out on trail hiking and being able to RV, especially in this kind of setting where it's not, this is not a resort campsite. It is not one of those Jellystone or KOAs or anything like that. I feel like they're just straight up nature lovers out here. So I'm liking RV life right now, but I am still kind of going through that adjustment of not having the kind of space that we're used to having when we're either at home, obviously, but when we're in hotels, because we do get places that are a really good size. And then also I would say having just a 2-burner stove. So that's all I have in the kitchen. So I'm still trying to navigate that. And, but otherwise I like RV life enough to consider, getting a different RV, getting an RV. So then my next question kind of leads into that. It says, would you buy a different RV? And if so, what would you buy as your next purchase? So I think we've decided we would buy another RV. As a matter of fact, this one has kind of a natural timeline built into it because our son is 11. And at some point, these bunks are going to be too small for him. So we definitely need to get something that's going to accommodate our preteen who's going to be coming in, who's going to be coming into the teen years here shortly. And we still want to make sure that the trip is fun and exciting for him and that he doesn't think of these trips as a place where he's cramped when he's inside, because the weather will not always be good enough to be sitting outside like it is right now. Sometimes it's too hot, sometimes it's too cold, sometimes it's raining. So we want to make sure that we get an RV that's going to give us a little bit more space. And as far as what class of RV would we buy, what are you thinking about?
Either Class C or a bigger travel trailer. It's probably going to be a bigger travel trailer.
A bigger travel. I think, okay, so definitely a pro to a bigger travel trailer is that when we get to our destinations, we can unhook the vehicles and we can take our tow vehicle and we can go through town. We don't have to worry about looking for parking for an RV. We ran into that. We actually do run into that at some parks when we were at, this is where the bad part of me comes in. I know I seem so sweet, but I am not always so sweet. When we were in Utah last year, so we were at Capitol Reef specifically. There was a man who was driving a Class A, and we were at the visitor center that day. And we had already been into the visitor center. We had done all the things, but you needed to run in one day. So my husband ran in one day, and I was sitting outside in our vehicle.
Oh, that's the guy that knocked on the window, asked you to move?
And I told him no, I wasn't going to move. But it was his entitlement, if you know what I mean, his entitlement. And the way that he banged on my window, and I was like, I'm not moving. But he put himself in that situation because he was in a vehicle that large in a parking lot that was not necessarily made for that. So I told him I'm not moving because I was in a parking space that was designated for cars such as in my SUV as well. So I did not want to do that, but I also felt like when we go places, I want to be able to freely enter these parks and find parking more easily than we would.
Yeah. Once you unhook the RV, you want to be able to.
You leave the RV behind and you go on about your business through town. And you come back to RV later on in the day. So
Definitely double axle though.
definitely double axle though. Yes, because we have single axle right now.
Yeah.
We do know for sure that means buying a different tow vehicle. So that's a different conversation right there. My husband has already started looking at different vehicles. We're not ready yet, so we'll figure that out when the time comes. But so my next question is, what is your least favorite thing about RVing? I'll start because it's on my mind right now. It took me a long time to figure out how to navigate the different reservation systems. It was just really annoying. And I'll say, and I'm not going to say where we live, but in our home state, they have actually made improvements over how the system was last year for the state parks. You could choose a park. If you had a particular park in mind and there were no openings, the website would just say, well, there's nothing open. And it would say, enter another campsite. Well, I don't know. There was no map attached to the site. So we didn't know how far away another park would be. I could maybe come up with some other random park name and not know how far away it was without using another tool to help me figure that out. But this year they've improved the website. So if you type in, if you're looking for a site at a particular park and there's no availability, they actually will populate the page showing you the next closest parks. That is a big improvement. The other thing that I know if I said, what is your least, and I'm giving you two, but I don't really like having to navigate how to find a spot because they are so rare with full hookups. Like right now, and I think, we've only had a full hookup one time so far, but otherwise we had water and electric. That's great. And they have dump stations, and this place here has a dump station. But I do like full hookup sites because it kind of cuts out some of that other stuff. But I mean, I don't have a lot to complain about, you know.
Yeah, what are you complaining about?
I know, usually I am so incredibly high maintenance.
You complain about having to hook up stuff you don't have to hook up?
God, I'm complaining about stuff he has to hook up, but I have to benefit from. So what is your least favorite thing about RVing?
Probably having to get the trailer level. Seems like that takes the most time.
Yeah.
Hook up the power and water, that's pretty easy, but I seem like I spend a lot of time getting it level. Now, it could be the scissor jacks, bigger like fifth wheels, they almost have automatic. Just kind of push them down. And on the newer ones, they self-level, right? You push the button and they do it all. And so that seemed like it takes time. But that's also part of RVing. So it's hard to complain about the thing that is RVing.
Yeah.
So I'd say right now, I don't. My biggest complaint. So yeah, that's not the biggest one. When you have to work on something, there's not a lot of room. Like when that toilet valve was cracked.
Yeah.
It's easy to replace, but you can't get to it. It's just the crampness of when you need to do maintenance.
Yeah.
Right. And there will always be maintenance. And so, the things that are really hard to get to when you need to work on it is probably the worst part.
Yeah. I know nothing about those struggles.
You don't have those struggles?
I just live here sometimes. Let's see. Do we have any other questions?
Was that it?
Those are the questions that I had written here. I guess I could come up with another one. So, what am I most forward looking to? What am I looking forward to the most? I think really taking it out on the road for more than just a few days at a time, like when we're just in a regular vehicle, when we would travel 4 weeks at a time. I'm looking forward to just being on the open road and going someplace and I don't know, maybe setting down some roots for like a week at a time or something here in different places. We love hiking out west. We love hiking in Canada. As a matter of fact, we'll be hiking in Canada a couple of days from now. But I think I like that idea of getting on the road and then just kind of finding a place, obviously ahead of time, but finding a place where we can make it our home for a few days. But I am really drawn to the mountains, and there are no mountains like what we have out west, unless you talk about what we have in the Canadian Rockies. But so I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most is really getting out west, like we like to do a lot. Yeah. What are you looking forward to the most for the next trip?
So not this trip, the next trip.
Yes.
Just being out. I like the nature, sitting out in the nature versus being
Yeah.
in
Despite all
suburbia.
these little bugs that are around my face right now.
Yeah. So, no, just enjoying it more and doing it more.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for our Q&A where we answer questions that not a single person asked.
Rarely asked questions. The RAQ.
Yeah, not frequently asked. No FAQs.
Yeah, the RAQ.
Nobody asked any questions. But it looks like we maybe have a neighbor over here. But so if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. I do have some other videos out here. I have cooking videos, hiking videos. I'm going to start getting into a little bit more of the campground reviews. I do talk about the campgrounds that we stay at, but I don't really go out into the area to show you the facilities, but I'm looking forward to doing that for some of these trips. As a matter of fact, that's a plan for this trip, this right here that we're on, to go around and look at some of the amenities that are offered here at this park. So until the next time, stay blessed.